Hey friends, Peggy Hall back with you from thehealthyamerican.org. I am just on the verge of laryngitis, but I do want to bring you a couple of videos this evening. Number one, I want to respond to some of your comments that you left all about candidate Kennedy and his stance on safer, let's see, how did one of my healthy Americans put it? Darts, right? Safer darts. She didn't like that I was calling them cocktails. Well, there are so many things that I can't call them on this platform, but I do want to continue to bring the light of truth here on this channel because so many people are here on this platform. And I want to, as I've said before, I don't want to tell you what to think, but I want to present you information. I loved reading through your comments. I don't have the time or the resources to answer every single one. In fact, I can't even read every single one, but I did get the gist of what many people were well, not really. I did get some emails, but I also got comments here. And the videos that I'm talking about, let me show you right here. That was yesterday and the day before. So I will have links for you. I highly recommend that you take a look because some of you are asking questions or making comments about things that I've already addressed. So here we go. I take a lot of time researching, preparing my notes, coming here day after day to help shine the light of truth, to bring evidence and facts and information so that you can draw your own conclusions. So this video I did yesterday has 11,000 views as of today. This one has a few thousand views. This was the first one I did about safer poison is not the answer. And that really kicked off my series on why in the non-spinning world would candidate Kennedy be making not his candidacy, but his activism all about safety testing. And I talked about that at length there. It's a 23-minute video, almost 24 minutes. Here's another 22-minute video where I talked about his shocking stance on mandatory medicine, because that's what he refers to these darts as the cocktails. And there were so many, wow, all sorts of comments that came in. And I'm so grateful that you have put your comments because I want that. I want the free exchange of open ideas without name calling and all of that. We need to have these conversations. And that's why I'm bringing it to your attention. Let me bring you a message from the sponsor of the video. And then before I share your comments and my responses actually to your comments, I want to introduce and actually revisit the concept of cognitive dissonance. Let me know if you can give me a good definition of cognitive dissonance, because that is what happens frequently when people are presented with evidence. And by evidence, I mean facts that comport with reality. This isn't he said, she said. These are actual words from candidate Kennedy. And then it was interesting that many people tried to justify that away. I'm going to answer that. That often is the result of a phenomenon called cognitive dissonance. We'll start off with that in just a moment. Let me take you on over to my sponsor message. And this is over at noblegoldinvestments.com. And I've been telling you about Noble Gold Investments. And remember, there's always a risk of investment. There's no guarantee of any kind, but you probably know that the US dollar has lost about 85% of its value since the 1970s, when the dollar was broken off from the gold standard. And the government seems bent on continuing the tradition. So from now until these elections that we're talking about, it's here's another truth. The government will likely print as much money as it wants. And the last time they did that, inflation went up 9%. So this means one thing, that the security of your future and your family's future is all in your hands. So make sure that you freeze the value of the wealth you are holding. Don't let it melt. So gold is the one asset that has been proven to withstand inflation. So if you go here to noblegoldinvestments.com, you can get all the info you need. There's a phone number there. There's a place to get documents if you want to read something. And if you qualify and invest with them, you are eligible for a 24 karat, 1/4 ounce gold standard coin for free. So go to noblegoldinvestments.com. This is the only gold company that I trust, noblegoldinvestments.com. I have a link for you in the description box below. Friends, YouTube has been doing some funny things, and I want to make sure that I can see your comments this this evening. Thank you, Valerie, for being on board. Katrina is on board as well. Our lovely Rhonda is not here with us this afternoon, and I know you're going to be on your best behavior. So I know that you appreciate our moderators who keep this stream flowing. I love doing the lives, and this is where you have an opportunity to chat, connect, support, question, offer your opinions. And I love that about my Healthy American audience. All right, let's talk about this. I don't even think I need this. I think I just need the microphone. I've got a new one on order. Hopefully I won't have to hold it like this. So let me summarize what many of you have said over the last 2 videos, because the main concern that I have is, and your comments are, some of the comments are, to me, demonstrating this concept of cognitive dissonance. All right, cognitive dissonance is a type of mental discomfort or uneasiness when you are presented with evidence, facts, information, data, things that you can even see with your own eyes, but they conflict with what you believed. And it's very, very difficult for you to change those beliefs, even when you are presented with the cold, hard facts. That is known as cognitive dissonance. Friends, this is probably why many of your loved ones, and maybe not so loved ones, and your friends, and maybe your ex-friends, went along with all of the government hoopla and hogwash, because they could not believe that the government would be lying to them. They rejected that. They rejected the notion that all of this could have been, that word, in order to create more government control, much like what happened in 9/11 and, post 9/11. And we've heard that again and again and again, to not let an emergency go to waste. And so the results of these emergencies is more government regulation. But many of your friends and family members could not see it. They were suffering from this emotional, it's not really emotional, it's mental unease with not being able to bridge reality with their preconceived notions. And friends, I am seeing that with this candidate Kennedy. And here's why. And he has been a very vocal voice. Is that redundant? He has been vocal over the many years, even prior to the hogwash, speaking out against the harms that are perpetrated upon children in particular. Haven't really heard him speak about adults, but he talks about the childhood cocktails, and I use that word to avert the algorithm. And he talks about there has not been enough safety testing. And this has been his refrain for a long time. So I pointed that out in 2 separate interviews, and I will continue to point that out because I have many, many interviews. And in fact, we're going to look at his website, because what happened is that some of you in your state of cognitive dissonance said, Peggy, you've got it all wrong. He is in favor of medical freedom. He is not talking about more safety. And I gave you a whole list of questions in that video, my first video a couple of days ago, about who is going to be the guinea pig for these childhood tests. All right. How many children need to be harmed in order to prove that there is no safe cocktail? Several of you said, Peggy, it is just, here's another thing you said, he is just saying that. He's trying to compromise. He is just saying that so that he won't offend those who are in favor of the cocktails. Well, is that the kind of candidate you want? Is someone who is just going to say something in order to get votes? In my book, that equals somebody who's lacking in integrity. So no, I don't want somebody who's going to be speaking out of both sides of his mouth. And trust me, I haven't even found a candidate who doesn't do that. And I'm not I'm not only talking about candidate Kennedy, but he is the one out of all of the candidates that has made his activism all about the safer cocktails. So there was another question that came up. Peggy, why aren't you criticizing President T? All right, this channel really doesn't like when I use his name. So why aren't you criticizing President T? He was the one that brought everything into existence and told everybody to do this, and he had his warp speed and all of that. First of all, all right, you can go back to some of my previous videos, especially the one about 15-minute cities. I'm no fan of Mr. T. I'm no fan of most politicians, but the reason why I'm not pointing that out now is because President T has not made his platform all about no consent or informed consent. Now that bothers me as well. I'm going to be breaking down some of these phrases that really bother me and that are being planted into our conscious and subconscious. I don't know if these individuals are doing it on purpose, but they are using a mind control mechanism, and I don't care for it. So no, I'm not going to call out President T. He's not the president. And if he goes into a debate and there's something that I hear that I want to bring to my lovely, healthy Americans, I will do so. But what I'm calling out is the hypocrisy, all right? T believed in all of that and he pushed it. This guy says that he doesn't believe in it, but when you actually listen to the words in the video I played yesterday, he said, I am against mandated medical interventions for unwilling Americans, unless, and as many of my astute listeners heard, he said, unless they harm. Oh, I mean, unless they help instead of harm. That's what he said. And some of you also said, Peggy, there you go again. You're focusing on that one word, unless. Friends, this guy is an attorney. All right. That's what they do, is focus on the one word. Have you ever heard of a contract? Have you ever been taken advantage of because of that one word in a contract that you didn't really read or pay attention to? He said that word on purpose, and he led with the phrase, I am against mandated medical interventions for unwilling Americans. And then those with the cognitive dissonance don't hear anything else. That's all they hear, and they move on. That's why it's presented that way, in my opinion. The other thing you said is, Peggy, why don't you bring these questions to him? I would love that. I have a whole list of questions that I would love to ask, and I shared many of those in the previous two videos. But the one question is, if you are in favor of safety testing, who exactly are these guinea pigs that are going to be tested on? And how many children are going to be harmed by these clinical trials before the government decides that they're not safe? Because that's another thing that many of you said. Oh, he knows that there's no such thing as a safe cocktail. He's just saying that. He's saying that he's in favor of more safety testing because he knows at the end, it'll never be tested safe. Okay, let me accept your statement at face value. So the logical follow on from your statement is my question. How many children need to be harmed in the meantime, for how many years, by how many companies, medical companies, those including Granny Gates Foundation, who does the medical testing? Are you okay with that? Where does the money come from? How much government oversight? How much bigger is government going to be? All right. There are so many other things, but I want to talk about the straw man fallacy. And that's what candidate Kennedy is engaged in. Now, it may be that he doesn't realize that he is putting up a straw man fallacy, and I'm going to explain to you exactly what that is. Or he may be doing it, as I say, he may be doing it unintentionally, or choice number two, he could be doing it intentionally with the desire of mind manipulation, or it could be a combination, or I could be totally off base. All of those things are possible. I want you to draw your conclusion with the evidence that I present. So let's take a look here, shall we, at what a straw man fallacy is. I'm going to share my screen, and then I'll explain it and break it down, because that's what I see happening. Here we go. The straw man fallacy, a how-to guide. So a fallacy means something that is lacking in fact. It is false. And when people have an argument, and I don't mean that, an argument, I mean when they have an issue that they're discussing or debating, often they will divert the argument in order to use these underhanded tactics to take your attention in a different way. So here's a straw man fallacy. I just got this off the internet. Ignore the real argument. Create a pretend argument. Defeat the pretend argument, claim victory over the real argument that you actually didn't even argue, and then do a victory dance. So let's break this down here. The real argument that I see is your medical rights. That's it. That's all. I don't care if the cocktails are filled with Hershey's chocolate syrup. I don't care if they allow you to live to be 120. Saying, and I had a Healthy American email me and say, you know what, Peggy? I agree with what you said. It's kind of like the suffocation devices. Everybody was fixated on the fact that they don't work. They don't keep out the cooties. Friends, I don't care if they do keep out the cooties. That is no there still is no justification for someone else to make my medical decisions for me. So no, talking about the safety and whether or not the suffocation devices work is not important in my view. That is another straw man argument, a straw man fallacy. So what we see here is the argument that is diverted toward safety testing. Do you really, let me know honestly, is that your major concern? In the last 3 years, were you concerned that there weren't enough safety tests done on this cooties cocktail? And if there had been, you would have taken them. Just let me know honestly. Or for you, was the issue, you don't have a right to tell me what kind of medical interventions I have to undergo. My boss doesn't have the right. The military doesn't have the right. The government doesn't have the right. Even my doctor does not have a right to force medical interventions on me. I have the last word. Or do you think that's the issue? So that's the issue in my mind. All this other stuff is a distraction, and it's called a straw man fallacy. Now, some of you said, Peggy, you handpicked a couple of interviews, and one of them was from 3 years ago. Maybe it was 4 years ago. And I also brought you a more recent one, and there are plenty of recent ones that I will continue to bring you. But let's do this, shall we? Let's just go right to the man's website itself, and we'll see exactly what he says. And we also will go to one of his cronies over there at the Highwire. But first, let's do this. Let me share my screen. Don't take it from me. I'm here to present information. All right, here we go. childrenshealthdefense.org. A message from our chairman on leave. He's on leave because of the conflict of interest as he's running for the president. All right. So on the homepage of the website, the very first box says the cooties, I can't say the word, or let's say the cocktail safety project. So no, I don't think I've misconstrued his words. It's number one. I don't really see anything here about, well, let's see, legal justice, but I don't really see anything here. I think there should be a box saying you have a right to your own medical choices. I don't see that. So let's click through, shall we? We'll learn more. I already read all of this in preparation for this video, so I will leave a link for you. And there's a video that you can watch. And then here is the presentation. And then there's actually the transcript. And here are the 6 steps. Now, right off the bat, I want you to see, and I'll give you a few seconds to give me a comment below. What do you see wrong with this page? What do you see here? What is the language that is being implanted into your brain once, twice, 3, 4, 5, whoops, let me go back, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, just at a cursory glance, it might even be more. I counted 12 phrases that I would have changed. All right, let's see if anybody has figured out what that phrase is. Yes, I have. Somebody wants to know if I'm losing my voice. I am losing my voice because of the number of videos and interviews that I do on a daily basis, and I am committed to doing so. I am absolutely healthy. Hashtag, I don't get sick. All right. So this is a laryngitis from speaking at a rather passionate level to you, my lovely, healthy Americans. So here we go. We are going to talk about, let's go back. Here we are. Do you see those words? Here we go. I'm going to share my screen. Why in the world, instead of saying safety project, he's coupling the 2 words, the V safety, all right? The cocktail safety, 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 steps to cocktail safety, more 6 steps to cocktail safety, cocktail safety. Friends, it should say cocktail harms. It should say the dangers. It should say the V danger project. Am I the only one that sees this? I would feel so bad. I know that you healthy Americans have a high level of discernment to see what is being done here. Coupling the words together with the cocktail and safety, making it unconscious in people's minds, and maybe not people like you that are very discerning and sophisticated, but anybody else that might stumble upon that website, all they see are the words safety. Oh, these are safe. There's a safety project. Well, they must be safe because there's all these projects going on to make them safe. It should say dangers. It should say the truth. All right. This is another way. And again, I don't know if he's doing it intentionally. I would like to ask him. I'd like to ask who created those documents and why on his website he approved that it's coupling those two words together. I mean, that's like saying a friendly rapist. No, there's no such thing. They don't go together. All right. That is something that really bothered me. All right. Also, it bothers me, informed consent. No, I'm not consenting. I don't care how informed I am. I don't care how many papers you give me, how many documents, how many inserts. I'm not doing it. So it's another one of those bait and switch. Well, if you read everything and then you still want to take the risks, well, now you have informed consent. No, I want no government medical intervention, period. All right. I don't want the doctors pushing it on the children. I do not want that. I do not want informed consent. I want medical freedom of choice, period. So I do not care for that phrase being pushed again and again. Maybe it's because I'm an English teacher and I speak different languages, but I really have a thing for words and their meanings. That's the only way I can make sense of what somebody is writing or saying. So let's go on, shall we? We're going to go back and we're going to take a look at that, what he has here. So, all right, here we go. Sharing the screen. So let's just take a look at the 6 steps to what he's calling safety. All right. Now, if it were me, the number one would be the government has no right to make you do this, period. End of story. That's where the debate needs to be. His number 1 is he wants to subject the cocktails to the same rigorous approval process as other drugs. All right. I also take issue with calling these drugs. And who are the guinea pigs that are going to be tested on? That's my question for all of you that agree with this. All right. Mandatory reporting of the adverse events. That sounds fine. Again, there's that bookending of, slip in some things that everybody will agree. I mean, state things that people will agree with, many people, but also slip in a few things that are a little unsavory. All right. Ensure that all involved with the federal approvals. Why do we need approvals? Why do we need recommendations? No, that should be eliminated altogether. Reevaluate all of the cocktails recommended by ACIP, which is the Advisory Committee on Cocktail Practices. Why do we even need that? I want to get rid of all this government regulation that has to do with your rights on your body. Study what makes some individuals more susceptible to injury. Friends, that is an underhanded way, or maybe not underhanded is not the correct word. That is a deflective way of saying some people don't get it. Well, you know what? Some people get injured, some don't. Maybe you'll be one of the lucky ones that don't. Frankly, I think it's highly unlikely that even occurs. I think most people have some level of injury. And then support fully informed consent and individual rights to refuse it. All right, it was the very last one after everything else was spoon-fed. And where is number 7, which needs to be eliminate the 1986 Act that actually removed the liability from these manufacturers. Put that liability back in and all bets are off. They're not going to keep making them and people are going to be suing them out of existence. Why is that not on the list? I have many issues with this, friends. Now, if you think that that's just an anomaly, just for fun, I went over to the Highwire, and the Highwire says that they are funded by ICANN, who was also founded by Del Bigtree. Again, I've never met the man. I don't have a beef with him. I am concerned about what he has on the website. Here it is again, an introduction to safety. What are you talking about? There's no such thing. How could there be? It's like making abortion safe. It doesn't exist. It kills the baby. So an introduction, here it is again. 1, 2, here's another one, 3, 4, safety 5, 6, 7, 8. It just goes on and on and on. So why in the non-spinning world are they putting these phrases together? And again, maybe not you smart, healthy Americans that have a level of discernment to read between the lies, but yeah, that's how I said it. But for the others that are still asleep, they're not awake. They're not alert to what's going on. And they'll read something like that and they will have it coupled in their mind that these things are safe. Now, there's one other thing that really troubles me. All right. And again, this comes from your comments. And all right. So let me just summarize again. People said, why don't you criticize the T-man? And I have. He doesn't hold himself out as a health advocate, so he's not a hypocrite. He was in favor of it and he rolled it out. All right. And then people said he didn't really mean it. Well, that's weird. Why would you say it? Why would you have it on your website if you don't really mean it? He's trying to compromise to get elected, and he doesn't want to upset the people that are pro cocktail. Well, that's kind of weird. I don't care for that. That's like compromising and wearing the suffocation device and, just getting one in order to keep your job. You either have integrity or you don't. This was the one that most of you came up with. He knows that there is no such thing as a safe one. So he knows they can never be approved. So why spend all this time, money, effort, energy trying to convince you that I just showed you on the website that there is such a thing and that there needs to be more safety tests? And I still haven't gotten an answer from anyone. Who are these guinea pigs? How many of them are going to be? And how long are these going to be carried out? How many harms are going to be perpetrated upon these children before they are finally deemed unsafe? I'm not okay with that. All right. I will remind you that repetition of these phrases, it's one of the most powerful mind manipulation techniques. So when you see a website that is full of all those phrases, it makes me question why they're doing that. Again, could be a coincidence, could be done on purpose. So I think if they would go and change the website to say harms and danger instead of safety, I would be much happier about that. So I don't like putting those words together. I don't like putting the words together pro-choice. All right. That is another type of fallacy. It should be called killing a developing baby. That's what it is. You have a choice to keep it. You have a choice to give birth, adopt it out, or you have a choice to kill it. They use phrases like terminating a pregnancy and all this other stuff, which these are euphemisms, which is what people use when they don't want to give the straight talk there. So I told you about the informed consent bothers me. It should be right of refusal. And, calling for these safer cocktails, that's like, so you're ignoring the argument, the actual argument of control over your body. You're creating a different argument to divert the attention, get everybody all excited, and then have these, victories with, more safety tests and all of that. And it's not going in the right direction in my view. That would be like a pro-life advocate like myself. All right, I'm in favor of life. I do not believe that a mother's life is more valuable than a baby's life, because that's an argument that people put out. And there are many arguments, I've refuted them all. But the point is, imagine someone like me who is on the record of pro-life in every circumstance says, but I do think that we should have some kind of, if they are done, it should be done under a doctor's care. And we need to have more regulations of the killing centers. They should be licensed. And, you see, that's the wrong argument. I'm not promoting for safer killing of the child. No, I am standing on my truth and what I believe in. So if you really believe that the government has no role, and he has said that too, that I believe in, integrity over your body, then why in the world are you pushing for children to be harmed during these new safety tests? I don't understand it. I actually don't understand it. Finally, so what I see is a person who's in favor of harming children in the name of safety testing, diverting attention from the actual issue. All of these actions have the potential of benefiting those big medical companies because now they're going to get grants from the government. The universities, he's spoken about this at length. I will bring you a video tomorrow or in the following days if you're interested. He spoke at Hillsdale College and he talked exactly about where the money goes and how the money goes to these universities. And it comes from the National Institute of Health, which is your money, my money, and the money that they print out of thin air. So why is that happening? It completely also gets rid and brushes under the carpet the idea of how people get sick anyway. And there might be a role for these childhood diseases that we don't even realize that could be protective down the road. So I would much rather have conversations about the theory of contagious illness. It is only a theory. There is no evidence that it exists. That's why it's called the theory of virology. Where are those topics? Well, how come that's not being spoken about? Well, there's no money there. So all of this other, the Granny Gates Foundation is involved in the testing. So all these people are going to get money. Again, either intentionally or unintentionally. All right. And finally, somebody said, Peggy, you have to talk about reports that his wife requested that all of the guests at her party in California had to be a human pincushion or have a negative test in order to attend her party. Now, I will tell you, it wasn't his party, but it was at his home. And his reply was, I guess I'm not always the boss at my own house. Now, she has a right to invite the guests the way she wants to. The guests have the right to attend and not attend. The guests have the right to become a pincushion or not a pincushion. But what troubles me here is that that would be like someone dedicating, like myself, okay, I've dedicated my life to animal rescue, right? I've had many rescue animals. I've done fundraisers. I've done all sorts of, for decades, I've worked in animal rescue. And imagine that I found out that my spouse purchased a dog from a breeder. And I'd be like, okay with that? It hasn't happened. It never will happen. But I'm trying to give an analogy that's a little less emotional because, again, of the cognitive dissonance. So I'm not blaming him for his wife's actions, but I do find it strange that he was so sanguine about it instead of, oh, I guess I'm not always the boss of my own house. That was wrong. I don't think people should have to have these medical interventions required in order to participate. That's what I would have liked to hear. All right. So it just, again, does not sit well with me. Somebody else said, Peggy, why are you attacking him? Well, I think we need to look up the definition of attack. I am bringing factual evidence about what he has stated and what he stands for. And as I've said, I'm not telling you what to think. I'm sharing my opinion and I want to hear your opinion. And if other candidates come out, and again, I don't really talk about politics. I do talk about medical freedom. So that's why this candidate in particular is of interest. And many of you asked me what I thought about his recent interviews. So I like to bring information that you are asking about. So that's what I have for you there, friends. And if you would like to stay on for, actually, I think that's going to be it for my videos tonight. I am on the verge of laryngitis. I've had several interviews with others on other platforms. And I'm so grateful to bring you this information and so grateful to have you on board. I look forward to bringing you more information. And my hope is that he will see, oh gosh, I didn't realize that I was putting out a message that was confusing, or maybe I was leading people in a direction away from the true issue. That would be fantastic if he were to say that. And by the way, I do have a couple of questions. Number one, my question for him is, what was the last jab you got? Just want to know when was it and what was it? And then I want to know the previous one. I'm just curious. Everybody has a right to do what they want if they want to become a pincushion or not, but I would like to know the answer to that question. Number two, if science, that he says a lot of times, I believe in the science, I stand on the science, that got us into trouble over these last 3 years, didn't it? Follow the science. We should be following the law. He said, I would like to ask him if he would mandate this medical intervention if indeed there were safety tests that proved that it helped. And he said, helped. I need to go back. He either said helped more than harmed or helped instead of harmed. So I would like to ask him to clarify that. Would he ever do that? I want a yes or no question. I don't want to dance around. I don't want to be diverted. I don't want any logical fallacies thrown out. I want an answer. And then the next question that I have is, would you work to support the repeal of the Act of 1986 that removed the liability for these medical companies? Those are my questions. I'd like to hear yours. All right, friends, I'm going to have some hot tea and some lemon, and I'm going to have a weekend of rest, and I hope that you will as well. I'm always grateful to have you on board. If you would like to read my written comments and share those with people who may not realize some of these things about candidate Kennedy, be sure that you get on my free Substack. A link is for you below. It's also peggyhall.substack.com, and I do sometimes 1 or 2 Substacks a week where I do more of a deep dive in a written format on some of these issues that are very important to me and to you. See you soon, everybody.